Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, father of a stolen child, 10th man, Arwin, we did have Eli but he seems to have disappeared, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon. You hear me?
We hear you, just waiting for Discord to say anything at all.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Very good. Right, we had a slow week last week, and this week I'm more than happy for it to continue, because it's nice and easy for me, as long as we rattle our way through housekeeping in a reasonably concise way. So, let's do that first and foremost. As ever, any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere edge as a horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
It would not be a Euclidean geometric horizon that we experience, no.
What kind would it be?
What? Are you saying there's a pseudo-Ramonian geometric horizon?
See, Arwen knows where I'm going with it.
He only just got here, and I already said in the pre-show, this is very Arwen. So yes, it doesn't surprise me that Arwen immediately picked up on your pseudo-Ramonian geometric, non-geometric, non-visible relating to the eye by way of angle horizon. Yes, just to summarise what you told us in the pre-show.
So how would that work, John, in your baller mode?
Work. Work being, what could it be used for? To do work with? I don't know, John, what kind of work can you do with this pseudo-Ramonian geometric, non-visible, based on the angles to your eye but you can't see it horizon that you told us about in the pre-show?
Well, according to bending geodesics, the inertial velocity of Earth as it moves through an asymptotically flat space-time would give the appearance of a flat Earth.
Asymptotically. Well, it sounds
That's
like
great. What does asymptotically mean?
Well, it's actually a flat space-time as we can perceive it. It's just the inertial velocity of Earth which causes it to seem to curve.
Causes what to seem to curve specifically that I can observe?
The sky.
That would merely be an optical effect. Why would this be a mathematical pseudo-Ramonian? How many dimensions does this have again? 4.
Who's golfing?
Nobody.
How does time move into the argument?
See, Arwin can be your best friend and your worst enemy. Do you want to ask that again, Arwin?
Yeah, how does time involve this pseudo-Ramonian geometric horizon? I mean, I could imagine how that could
Don't
work.
help him.
I mean, oh, okay.
Well, that becomes when you talk about velocity, you'll need time.
Oh, really? What's the velocity of the geometric horizon in pseudo-Ramonian force space?
9.8 meters per second per second.
Hold on, you just relinquished,
What?
you just relinquished the dimension of your very claim, right? You just said it doesn't need time. Well, it's one of the dimensions. I mean, I noticed you didn't answer me when I asked how many dimensions. Oh, yeah, you did. You said 4. One of them's time. Where does the time come into the horizon? The non-geometric... I can't even bother to reel off that list again. You know what I'm talking about. This is for your assistance, by the way, globe-believing Muppets. We're just trying to help you out. Obviously, given that you don't have a straight line to a geometric horizon unless there's a no Atmo day scenario where you don't have any atmosphere, sphere-shaped air to bend the light of the horizon that you're viewing with a sextant. It's a very real problem that's just come to a head after 21 months of you all telling us the horizon's refracted. So now we're in a situation where you need a straight line to it in order to use this tool called a sextant. It's an angle measuring device. Well, John's trying to... Go on, go ahead.
The claim that the horizon's refracted is obviously wrong. It has to be an effect of gravity.
What has to be an effect of gravity? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, apparently the horizon.
Yeah, the black swan.
Owen's shout today. Owen's on fire. Go ahead, John.
I can't keep going with it. I feel too silly. I was going to say the black swan would be proof, but no.
You say you feel silly now, and I'm sure that's true. I'm sure you're not just saying that for the sake of it. But there are people, you were one of them not so long ago, that would bark this stuff at people like me with dogged determination and absolute faith in what they were stating. Unless I'm wrong, did you not have absolute faith in what you were stating when you were stating it about globe belief? Because you said you feel silly now.
Well, yeah, because, the horizon, it does seem to have an angular relationship to the eye based off your height off the ground. It's just it hasn't got a determined distance, It's not geometric. So before the determined distance become a factor in the argument, I thought I was measuring geometry.
And the tool... the sextant that we've been talking about so much recently, that utilizes geometry though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it uses triangulation.
So straight, flat line along the surface of the ground in order to triangulate things. So that's geometric by nature then.
Looking at that, the picture that's scrolling by on your the feed right now with the boat Nat Geo. It's indicative of the globe for condition, but it also, I mean, because they do gaslight you, they do make you feel like, am I crazy? Like, am I like, there's always a moment where you're like, oh, hold on. Maybe it is the globe, but then this right here is them attempting to demonstrate the geometric horizon, and they aren't even aware of the fact that it's behind the boat because of their own, either because of their bias or because they're trying to pull a fast one. It doesn't really even matter. It's right there. Like, how no one's tried to explain that. No one's tried to say, wow, this was a major source for information, and they kind of just fumbled that, didn't they? No one's talking about it. No one has talked about it. That's what tells me, yeah, the globe stinks.
Timing. So when Nat Geo released this image, people pulled it apart for its fakery. There's various different aspects of it that were slightly dodge, and people were trying to explain away the effect of the flag, or whatever it is, the board that they've got in the back of this boat, and why there's one of the stripes missing. So you get flat earthers at the time trying to explain it with the optical phenomena. And after it came out, we had the black swan argument come to light. And immediately thereafter, people go, hang on a second, this is a black swan. The horizon's beyond the geometric limitation. If they're saying the geometric limitation is this optical limit where you've got a missing bit because of the fact that you've got waves, you can see them in the foreground. So they're going to obscure your view because they're big in the foreground and the thing's little in the distance. Meanwhile, the horizon's behind it. So the optical effect that they're claiming is, oh, absolutely matching up to where Earth's curve should be. Well, it isn't, because the horizon's behind it. But nobody noticed at the time because nobody was highlighting the black swan, so it wasn't really a prevalent argument.
I got a rebuttal to the scientific evidence for gravity. I forgot it, but I remember it now.
Okay, go ahead.
Relativity is a mathematical theorem, not a scientific theory. It's just been misclassified.
Come again?
Yeah, relativity is a mathematical theorem. It's not a scientific theory. It's just been misclassified because of the paradigm shift 100 years ago.
It's classified as being physics.
Well, physics includes calculations and mathematical calculations.
No, that's
No.
maths. They're very distinctly different. Are you saying it's been miscategorized 107 years ago as physics? Or are you saying that it's been categorized as maths, which is abstract, which we take apart based on the fact that it's abstract, not physical? Are you saying it's been miscategorized as mathematics and should be classed as physics, or it's been miscategorized as physics and should be abstract maths? Which one are you saying? I don't follow.
Well, in the same way that you calculate gas pressure, but it's still physics, we're talking in the same area.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
the
but that
nature...
requires actual proof, though.
No,
right?
no. The calculation of it is still just a calculation. It's an abstract description. It's just language. So describing something that is physical doesn't make the language used to describe it physical. So yes, you can describe gas pressure with mathematics. That doesn't mean that the description becomes physical. The description is still just the abstract description. That's maths.
Correct.
Right, you got to ground the
I
concept.
still haven't had an
into
answer.
reality.
So how has it been miscategorized? Are you saying it's been miscategorized as physics 107 years ago? In other words, what was described when detailing pseudo-Riemannian bending space-time, that's Einsteinian gravity? Are you saying that back then it was described as being applicable to the physical world and really should have been classified as mathematics, or the other way around?
Yeah, I'd say mathematics. It should have been placed into calculations instead of into theory.
Right, well, I'd agree. You know, saying that the description is physical is wrong, and the description applies to nothing in the physical realm to begin with. You know, you're pointing up at the sky and suggesting that your maths are applicable to those phenomena that are unvalidated in terms of their cause. But that doesn't make it physical. It's still just a mathematical description. Pseudo-Riemannian force space. It has no physical attributes at all. I'm struggling to get to the scientific proof, see? Where am I missing it?
Well, I sidestepped the scientific proof by stepping into calculations.
Oh, I see. So when you said that you wanted to address the any scientific evidence of gravity question, what you actually meant was I want to immediately sidestep that question to make it seem like I can answer it by taking it into the realm of the abstract. That's what you meant, right?
Correct.
Oh, how very familiar. Yes, indeed.
So no, my position would be that the question's malformed.
Me asking for scientific evidence of gravity? Not really. If there's a phenomena to study, which they're claiming there is, then it's not unreasonable for a cause and relationship to be established by way of science. The problem is that they don't have a phenomena in the first instance. They merely have the description in maths. That's it. So no scientific evidence of gravity then, but an attempt to sidestep us into the abstract realm of mathematics.
Well, even in the abstract world of mathematics, speaking as a flat earther, again, you still need measurements to base all this off of. You know, like where are they getting the measurements for it?
Measurements of what?
Yeah, I was saying that as a flat earther, like where are you getting the measurements? You know, like to do the calculations to tie this to reality.
Well, that's no problem to answer. I can give you the measurements all day long. You know, I can bombard you with field equations, but that doesn't mean you've got something to be measuring in the first place. They're supposed to be a phenomena, right?
Right. How do you measure something that doesn't exist?
Well, precisely. You can maths a unicorn's farts all day, but they don't exist. But I can give you the calculations, and I can describe them in the abstract realm of maths. Doesn't mean there's anything physical to actually study. The same applies to gravity. In terms of pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending, that's a conceptual medium described by Einstein. Now, it might allude to the idea that that's governing the way your sky works. It isn't. It's not a physical phenomena, it's a mathematical description. Conjured by Einstein. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, they're more study-based fields that they wouldn't experiment.
No way.
I asked somebody to pass on the, or add you to Master B, Crack Villain. Did anybody do that?
They did, but
Cool.
I am waiting for a PC to be delivered to my house. There was flooding where I live in the southwest last year, and I've been through a cacophony of problems, dude. So I'm trying to get there as quick as I can.
Oh, but as long as you've been added, no rush. It's not very
No worries,
often
dude.
people get added across, but there we go.
I know. And I actually am very appreciative, and I thank you. And yeah, I'm actually very happy to be sort of in there more with the heavyweights because I'm sick of being there with the lightweights.
It's more that when there's fundy Discord muting going on, you can't hear anything. If you're in Discord, the person that's doing that, what they actually achieve is stopping anybody in Discord from hearing. Well, there's certain people that are just like, well, no, I want that person to hear everything that's going on. No offence to the other people in Discord. There's some new people in there by the looks of things today. Hello, new people. Hello, Nathan. It's really good to be here also. Oh, well, I'm so touched.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Nathan. Like, they're brilliant. Your show's so great.
Said I hated when I was in Discord. I could never hear anything, especially when Rumpus would start.
What?
What? Didn't hear a word of that. I did, really. I'm just joking, Neil. So, no viable hypotheses?
But I already said that those are study-based. It'd be wrong to classify them as science, physical science.
Right, but we're asking them to give us physicals. That's what You're in a funny mood today, John. Yeah, that's precisely why we're asking the question. If anybody's unaware why we ask for any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, it is because they are claimed to be science. In essence, we're asking them for their science. In fact, we're asking them for less than their science. We're not even asking for an experiment, let alone a validated experiment. We're merely asking for a viable, not necessarily actualised, hypothesis. That's all we're asking for. Now, given that they're science,
well, how
or
could
claim
they
to
even
be,
test a hypothesis? Like, how could they even test one?
that's not our problem. I'm not the one claiming to be science, so it's not my problem.
Yeah.
If you're going to claim your science, give us some science, right? At the very least, give us a viable hypothesis.
Well, they'll never get an independent variable that's possible of being manipulated.
Well, they've got plenty of phenomena, so just give us any viable.
Why is that?
Most of what
Is
they're
that maybe
dealing with
because
is
they can't manipulate any of the things that they claim that they should be able to manipulate based on the fields that they're in? Clearly, they can't manipulate anything. It's sort of within side of the description of the actual field that they're in, is it not?
yeah, they're describing what lights in the sky are, and there might be very different causal relationships to those lights we call stars and the sun and the moon, right? Well, those descriptions have turned into stories about space travel. Any evidence we can have gas pressure, like we're all breathing, without a container.
You'll like this one. I've been thinking about this one a lot. to go with the nonsense. But the inertial vector of Earth creates the available microstates so that the space that they refer to is not available for gas pressure.
Or what inertial vector?
9.8 meters per second.
Sorry, you're assuming Earth has an inertial vector of 9.8 meters per second. That makes no sense.
Right. That's
That would be per second, or per second.
right. But
What do you mean, right?
when you hold an
Hold on.
object,
Right?
right, when you hold out an object, it's actually Earth rising up to meet it, so that gas pressure is still expanding in all directions. It's just the Earth is overtaking it quicker than it can escape.
So
That sounds very
it sounds
convoluted.
preposterous. So when something escapes from Earth, you're saying that Earth's perpetually chasing the gas upwards?
Yeah, that's what they claim.
In essence, yes. Yes. In essence, yes.
At what speed?
9.8 meters per second per
9.8
second.
meters per second.
So it's accelerating.
Hmm.
So
Adam.
sometime next Wednesday it'll pass the speed of light, will it?
You always ruin my fun.
So people antipodal from me are traveling away from me as
Yes.
well?
Yeah, this
Yes.
is the bit that always messed me up when it was detailed many years ago on a TV show before I was Flat Earth by Brian Cox. You're like, okay, so if the Earth's rising up in Einstein's idea of what gravity is, then the dude in Australia who's antipode from my position how is it feasible that he's also rising up? I mean, the answer is fairly simple because in the maths it's only applicable to one place at a time, right?
Hmm.
Well, it's bending geodesics in space-time. The acceleration that I'm describing is a curved path, which is always an acceleration, but it's not necessarily changing speed.
But is that because it's rising up, right? Is that because it's rising up to meet that, but at the same time, due to its gravitational well and the pressing down upon it, which is also another vector of motion, I've heard that it's 9.8 meters per second going down into the gravitational well while going up at 9.8 meters per second. So why doesn't, I don't know, that just sounds like the most ridiculous stuff ever. Like I've never heard anything so stupid in my life.
Where's it taking
Ever.
place? Where's it taking place?
Pseudo-Riemannian force space.
Where's that?
Space-time.
Where's that?
It's a mathematical conception.
So this is taking
Second
place
law of
in somewhere that...
thermodynamics violation.
No. Well, you can if you say pseudo-Riemannian space-time is the sky vacuum, then yes. But at this stage, what's being described, it's not describing the sky, it's describing pseudo-Riemannian force space. Now, they might say that's the sky, but the mathematical description is merely a conjuring from Einstein called pseudo-force space. That's what's happening. That's how it's being described. That's where it's happening. So when it comes to, well, it doesn't quite make sense that the ground's rising up at 9.8 meters per second when there's somebody antipode from my position that would simultaneously be going the opposite direction. It would mess everything up. No, because mathematically we'd describe it from that position with the same exact bending geodesic in space-time and it would work out perfectly. All right, well, that must mean that the sky is a vacuum. Isn't necessarily what's being claimed. The claim is an upward vector of the Earth towards whatever item falls towards it at a 9.8 meters per second acceleration. That's what's being claimed in pseudo-bending force space-time. Merely a description in maths, not a place we actually exist in.
Right.
So then,
that's why I
as
said,
well, just to add to that quickly. So obviously they're not explaining the actual sky because we would be able to observe this from planet to planet because obviously every planet itself has its own gravitational well, meaning every planet has its own, accelerational rate in terms of we have the 9.8 meters per second squared. Other planets have their own, so we would see a differentiation between the two if they were talking about the sky and not just the conceptual abstract mathematics in which we know they're talking about them in, right? We would have this push and this pull. and then effectively over time, we would see a separation in space-time itself. And what would that cause between the two bodies in the separation of space-time? Is that the dilation?
Not exactly.
Well, no, all motion is relative.
You're
in
talking about
pseudo-romantics.
orbits, right? This is orbital mechanics that you're trying to wedge in like they have. They're looking at the sky and they're ascribing descriptions to it. When those descriptions, mathematical descriptions, don't work, they will make the alterations within the mathematics to match the observations that they're looking at. In other words, it's the cart following the horse following the cart, or whichever way around it is, the wrong way around.
But yeah, that's why I said at the beginning, they're going to have to, if they want to have any chance at arguing at all, they're going to have to hide completely in the mathematics now. There's no measurements that they can go off of.
Yeah, Rumpus declared that one of the last things before he was banned permanently was to say the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. You know, they're already taking it in that direction. Hey, Chocolate.
Wait, Rumpus was banned permanently?
Yeah, for lying.
No
Wow.
way. Oh,
Good
we
morning,
really
good morning.
needed that, Bundy.
Needed?
How?
You
That
haven't
was a
got-
joke.
Yeah, they need him. Keep the
Yeah,
audience
exactly.
confused. Alleviates their pain to a certain degree. Doesn't always work.
Hey,
What's up,
chocolate.
chocolate?
Yo, yo. What's going on?
Hey, hey, hey.
Watch out.
Yes, chocolate.
That
Like
Mr.
that
Cracko.
hello in stereo?
Cracko, what's up, brother?
Cracko Crosso villain.
How you been, man?
Let's a little bit more housekeeping. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nah.
What is the sun?
I don't know. Let's make up a story and then worship it.
Hold on, I got it. For it to be an object, you would require an R radius to measure its distance.
Well, it is an object. We see it, don't we?
Hold on. That's slightly phrased badly. So they
Yeah.
do that, and they do require. But when you say for it to have a size and it must require, that implies that that is the way that it must be done when we don't even know what it is.
Right, but
Yeah,
I'm assuming
we
it's
could,
physical
we could
thing.
literally be looking at the size of, let's say, like the end of a laser pointer, for instance, right? The size of that isn't necessarily the size of the laser itself, right? Not to say that the sun is a laser pointer. Don't confuse me there. But again, like, the point, is made there.
Right, but that would be a projection, right? You're describing a projection.
Yeah, sure, but we can make up all sorts of assumptions about what it might be and how it might be measured if it was that thing we're assuming it is. But we don't.
Right.
And I'm not saying it isn't.
That would. But right, that's the trick, though. You got to get someone to argue from another claim. Like you get someone else to make a claim about it, and then your claim against their claim is how you measure what's true.
Right. Attention, all flat earthers. Holding up, in a beautiful false dichotomy ready to be exploited by our opponents, a model. Usually with a couple of suns and moons hovering around the top of a flat plane. Now, again, a very useful idea that might be utilised to describe how something works with perspective for the sake of argument. Well, that implies that you know that the thing has some physicality to reduce an angular size because of its physical shrinking with distance. Of course, I don't know that that's the case with the sun, but it's very useful if we actually make a positive assertion about it, maybe about its height. Very difficult not to when we're talking about the sextant, but we definitely manage it here, don't we? None of us to date have made any claims whatsoever about the height to the sun. Because we don't need to. We can detail how the tool's used, factually accurate in terms of how you get an angle to any navigatable star. Well, acquiring that angle doesn't imply that suddenly we know the height of the star. We just know that you point at it, get an angle, and triangulate with it. And it works. Now, further to that, well, I have no idea what the star that I'm actually using is. I know it can be utilised by way of an acquisition of an angle to it, but that's about it. But if you are one of those flat earthers that are holding up a model, all you're doing is giving your opponent a opening to utilise something called a false dichotomy fallacy. And the false dichotomy fallacy is where you have a model and they have a model. And let's see which works best. Oh, well, what do you know? The globe worked better. Therefore, we're on a globe. And you've got an idiot pancake, haven't you, flat earther? Well, no.
Well, you know,
Go on.
I used to do that. I used to do that very thing a lot and say that things can't work on a flat Earth. You know, like, well, that's impossible on a flat Earth. It's because I had a model in mind when I was describing it and saying those terms. That's the reason people say that, is they're trying to build a model in their mind and compare it to the globe.
Right.
It's the same with the scientific method.
Let's just round out that point.
No.
So just before you go on, Crackvillain. Exactly. So if you're reading a comment or your opponent says that can't work on a flat Earth, ask them to prove their claim. On what flat Earth? Well, which model are you going to be ripping apart? Because I don't ascribe any model to the world I live in. I appreciate one aspect of it. That would be that it's flat. Merely an aspect. Does it mean I know how the sun and the stars work above this plane? No. They've been very carefully logged. And I can utilise that information the same as you can. Doesn't mean I know what they are. Doesn't mean I've got them on a model. It doesn't mean that I'm going to start putting my model against your model. But by saying, that can't work on a flat Earth. Oh, right. The flat Earth that I've said and detailed and handed to you in a model form so you can hold it up in false dichotomy. No. But that's what they require when they say those things. Establish what they're actually claiming. If they're saying these stars can't work on a flat Earth, really, well, I haven't made any claims about that, but are you saying it can work on your globe model? Let's have a little look now, and we'll pull apart your reification fallacy. And we won't even get to my model because I'm not going to offer one. I don't have one. Why would I want to follow models? That's a reification fallacy.
Well,
What's funny is that we've actually got the method. We've actually got a method, though, have we not? Like, in the sense of the scientific method. So what they're actually trying to do is implicate us into a position of, oh, here, I'll represent the model, and then commit a fallacy in which we are actually claiming you yourselves are exactly guilty of, and then they're trying to establish us to do the same, right? But then the issue is here is it's a dichotomy of this. This is the dichotomy, right? Okay, guys, you make up a model, but at the same time, we'll have a method, but don't stick us to that, but we'll stick you to the model in which you never even claimed to have in the first place. But then don't you dare stick us to the method in which we actually invented and do claim to have. Like, what a crazy world we're in.
Yeah, and well, the part where they say that can't work on a flat Earth, what they're really saying, since we measure the Earth as flat, is that can't work in reality if I'm correct about my assumption.
Yeah, if my sphere assumption is correct, and of course, because I'm a sphere-believing muppet, it absolutely must be, that would infer that it absolutely couldn't work on a world that isn't the one I already assume I'm on. Therefore can't work on a flat Earth, because that isn't the world I'm on. And that is the world, therefore not flat, therefore this can't work on it. Now let's see how you describe what I have got on my model working on your model. So I can show you how on your model it doesn't work as well as my model.
It's a very interesting spell that's been cast on people.
I don't live on a model. Why are we talking about models?
Every phenomena that they... Sorry, Chocolate. Every phenomenon that they look into, they look into it with the presumption that we're on a ball. And so, you know, they answer the question of how certain phenomena might work in the context of being on a ball before they've even started.
A trivia question from Retro Bill in the super chat, who says, I assume this is directed at fundy globe believing morons, Retro Bill. Trivia question. Are astronauts on the ISS experiencing quote-unquote weightlessness because gravity is too weak at that height, or simply because they are falling around the Earth like a perpetual vomit comet? Question mark. Thank you very much, Retro Bill, for the super chat. Hopefully someone will address you in the chit chat from the Sky Vacuum orbit assuming fundy side of this argument. Thank you very much for the super chat.
3 chats down, Nathan. I've answered it.
Oh, you answered it. What did you say?
It's a G value at 250 miles of 8.6 meters per second is what it calculates there to be. So it's pretty much falling. It's a vomit comet is the reality.
Yeah, it's
1.2 difference.
It's orbital. Presupposition of falling.
Yeah.
Like Earth is presupposed to fall around the sun, and the moon presupposed to fall around the Earth, etc., etc.
And now the Earth presupposed to fall up at 9.8 meters per second in the conceptual abstract mathematics.
What a bunch of nonsense.
Oh, what's an orbit?
Presupposition. It's a presupposition based on an R value.
No. Are we okay with the word orbit? Because orbit originally did just mean to circle, right? Obviously, we understand that now it's like gravity, right? Gravity has lots of other things attached to it now. It means other things, like, the gravitas of a situation, for instance. So orbit, are we okay with that word?
No.
Or is it because it...
Yeah, but
No.
that's why I ask what's an orbit, because I want to know what their definition of orbit
in
is
context,
that they're using.
Same.
In context, an orbit's a begging the question fallacy. It's the presupposition when looking in the sky that the rocks that you assume they are fall around one another, and we are the same as those rocks falling around the sun. So it's a presupposition. Just the word orbit just begs the question.
Well, what if you use
Socratic-
it colloquially, like an orbit just to spin around something, rather than the idea of gravity and things falling around each other, masses and all that?
I use it at all.
Yeah, but it elicits now, doesn't it? Now that orbit, it's like I said with the word gravity, right? The issue is that because gravity now isn't just this idea of things apparently falling down at 9.8 meters per second, right? Yeah. And I don't even know, again, I don't even want to go into that at this moment, but that is what people state all the time on the flat earth side as an agreed upon average fall rate. It's the same thing. But when I say gravity, do you just think of that? No, you don't. So when I say orbit, do you just think of orbit as in to circle around? No. It's a reification of the globe again. So that's why it's a problem.
It's defined that way. I just looked it up. The curved path of a celestial object or spacecraft round a star, planet, or moon, especially periodic elliptical revolution. It's just laying out the begging the question. And then it's got
There is why I ask what's an orbit.
It's just a
I was in
word,
the same position as you there, Chocolate.
a word used to beg the question. There you go.
Exactly. So what's that again?
They even
I don't
describe
think
it
I'd
like back
use
to
it
the,
in any other way other than if I was talking about celestial objects. If I was talking, using the word orbit, I don't think I would use it in a flat Earth sense. It wouldn't have a purpose. The simple fact you use orbit, you use it because it describes 3D motion, doesn't it?
begs the question.
Yeah.
Okay, I could give you a use of it, Chocolate. You're the new hotness in the club, thus the girls orbit you in the club.
Yeah, well, that's the second definition. Yeah, they've tried to introduce it as a colloquial definition, but they tend to, and there's something that uses a scientific term. They'll dumb it down into a colloquial term and then sandwich it in when claiming science. Well, this is no different, but the reverse. So in other words, they've got a word that literally begs the question for their sphere Earth, because next to it, when I've looked it up in Google, in physics, an orbit is the gravitationally curved trajectory of an object, such as the trajectory of a planet around a star, or a natural satellite around a planet. In other words, this word directly is utilised to beg the question. That's its main purpose. But underneath it, number 2, an area of activity, interest or influence. And then it gives the example. An audience drawn largely from outside the party's orbit. Has said nobody fucking ever. It's just a word to beg the question.
We still got to do Coriolis. Talking about begging a question.
Nah, Coriolis is a real effect you can observe from a non-inertial turning roundabout as you observe the not actual deflection of a branch hanging over it move towards you and come to get you. The coming to get you of the branch is the Coriolis deflection. Absolutely real, easy to describe in real life if you're on a turning reference frame. It's utilised differently. It's not just a word that says Earth spins. It's...
So that's an apparent deviation, right? Because you're already circling around, correct? So it appears to deviate, but really it's actually going in one vector.
It doesn't have to move at all. That's why I use a tree limb. It's the appearance of the tree coming to get you. Oh no, the branch is coming to get me. These scary trees, they're attacking. No. It just appears to be coming towards you because you're on a roundabout with a tree limb hanging over it. So the apparent deflection of the tree limb is Coriolis deflection. Doesn't have to be moving at all.
But
okay, sorry, because I was thinking the analogy with the basketball. That was why, I guess. No worries.
The only reason I bring it up is to describe Coriolis, you'll need to assume there's an axis first to have spin, right?
They are
correct.
tied.
That's
yes.
correct.
I see your point. They're tied at the hip. Yes, correct.
So that's where they get their trick on that one, is they claim that hurricanes are traveling straight.
What axis?
Hurricane Kosho.
Perfect. Chocolate. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth base variety?
What
That's
axis?
a negative.
What axis? Well, precisely the one I'm going to assume.
Oh, that one. Oh, okay.
Fallacy.
Yes. Assuming spin is a fallacy. Begging the question.
I'm not being a good glober.
You're being all right. Is that it? Are we done with rotating and deflection and all these things? If so, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Of course not.
Hell
Absolutely,
no.
of course not. Went through that before, didn't we? Where it was the people that were involved in geology, I believe it was, the people that were actually actually analyzing the things in the various depths as they went down, the various predictions that were made via the same people again that were using the seismologists as well as the geologists, right? The same field of seismology that predicted, and remember it was Newton first that predicted the main layers of the Earth, right? The main 3 layers that were off of nothing but a whim, and then it was reified by the field of seismology. But that same field years later with much better equipment, again, remember, on the super, is it Koala or Koala? Someone bite my head off, please go ahead. Borehole, at whatever depth it was like 7.8 miles, right? They had absolutely everything they predicted from the same field that reified Newton's idea wrong. Basalt salt at a certain depth, wrong. Bacteria wouldn't be found, wrong, found. It would be denser as they got deeper, wrong. They were wrong on all counts.
You don't mention any of that.
Don't you need a radius for that?
If just for the interest of balance, if you're a globe believer and you want to know how to make that argument without highlighting any of these obvious problems, just say, repeat after me, P waves and S waves. You don't have to mention any of that stuff. I don't know why you did.
Oh, yeah, and if you are going to go with the P wave and S wave, you can say, well, radar wasn't always perfect in measuring, but it got better through time. So P waves and S waves will improve.
Appeal to the future fallacy. They haven't measured it now. They're not accurate, but there's a good chance in the future, like this false comparison I'm now going to draw, it'll get better too, because it's basically the same as radar, even though it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't Google ever say that? It never says maybe sometime in the future we can measure it. Maybe one day we can measure R. They seem to have a number there already.
I mean, it is.
Why am I told that? Why am I told that?
It's a reasonable pattern, though, isn't
Nathan,
it?
you are correct there, actually, though, that I don't need to say all of that, do I? And I guess the propensity for me to do so is because I feel like I have this need to, like, almost throw them under the bus, as if to cast to everyone else watching, the fundies and the globers, to show exactly how inaccurate they are even now, as opposed to where they originally first, come up with the idea of this. And it was just an idea. And it's just to simply illustrate, I guess, that, they didn't know what they were on about back then, and they still don't now, and they're still wrong. But that's not my job to do so, and you're correct. And I shouldn't do so.
Okay, let's play a little game. What I want you to do is tell me if the thing I list has improved or got worse with time. Okay? So, freedom concept. All you got to say is it's got better with time or worse with time.
I didn't hear it.
Freedom. Has it got better with time or worse with time?
That's subjective.
Worse.
Not physical.
Good. That was a trick question to start off with, and John got the right answer. Say that again, John.
It is subjective. Yeah.
It's a concept. It's subjective to the individual.
Perfect. Good answer. That's why I did it first, so we could rule those out, all of them. So what we're talking about is stuff that we can assess subjectively, right, John? Okay, next example. Cars.
Subjective.
Yeah, have they subjectively got better with time? Or worse with time?
Depends on what aspect of it you're talking about.
In general.
Again, I say subjective.
So subjectively, your 1960s car with no seatbelts was objectively or subjectively better or worse than a 1999 Rolls Royce with seatbelt pretensioners. Obviously, they've improved. Why are you being awkward? This was supposed to be fun.
Sorry, because of different tastes, I guess that's why I thought. That's subjective to me, maybe. Yeah, but yeah, of course, cars in general, safety, yeah, better engineering, yes.
Right.
That's
Aircraft.
subjective.
Aircraft generally got better with time.
Correct.
Yes.
Excluding Concorde.
Ugh, God damn. Concorde
Concorde only had one crash.
Hold on, no, that's not true, because if you include all aircraft, and in other words, anything that we've produced that goes into the air, we have evolved beyond Concorde. There's fighter jets that are far more advanced than Concorde.
Correct.
So,
true.
Now that we've got that caveat out of the way, have they improved or got worse with time?
Worse.
Worse? Do you mean worse?
Improved. Yeah. They've improved.
No, they took away our technology. We had flying technology that was better in Tartaria.
I don't know,
Tartaria.
man. I like my lunar module on the moon.
With any
the
other
bucket
cross-section of
seats.
society, this would be easy. Bloody flat earthers.
I'm sorry, Nathan. I
Yes,
started that.
aeroplanes have improved over
The
time.
technology has improved, yes.
Okay. What about this will be the
Blimp
last one.
technology has gone downhill. Blimps got way worse. Where are they?
It's coming.
It's coming. If you've already figured out where I'm going with this, then well done, 10 points. Last one before the main obvious one that some people on the panel have already figured out. What about culinary equipment? Has it improved over time? Pestle and mortar being a good example of a starting point, and an electric bloody whisk for a modern example? I don't know. Don't tell me it hasn't improved, is what I'm trying to get at.
It has improved.
Thank Jesus. Praise be to Allah. So, what about space? Oh, Rumpus, the actual point that makes the point. What about space travel? How's that got on? Is it improved?
Yes.
Nothing, because it didn't exist ever.
I'd go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but we've destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to bring it back.
Invoking emotion.
What about
the CGI gotten better?
The CGI has improved. Are there any examples, technological examples, where there's been a devolution? I mean, I can think of some pretty crude examples, like, for example, the microwave. Right, it reached a point, it reached a pinnacle, maybe in the 90s, there or thereabouts, where microwaves could basically do everything, with all sorts of buttons and gizmos and all sorts. You could add bits of water to them to moisten up the stuff, and they weighed, and they did all sorts. Modern microwave is cheap and rubbish because people don't like them so much. So they've got worse. Not because, you know, they've actually devolved, but moreover that the technology is just not worth investing in, so therefore it's just got cheaper and cheaper and not really progressed. It's just kind of reached a standstill. Yeah? But can we get any other examples that have literally got worse as time has progressed?
Pretty much no.
Well, it
Not
would
ones
take
that
people,
matter.
It would take people's interest to drive things to stay at a standard, right?
I mean, it's not weird that we were able to accomplish things between 1969 and 1972 that we cannot accomplish in 2021. You think that's weird?
But that's what's
Get outta here.
interesting. So
No, they
every
could go-
aspect of what Nathan spoke about has improved. So rocketry technology has improved, right? Okay. Navigation has improved. Okay. But space exploration has, well, I wouldn't even say it hasn't unimproved or anything because it didn't exist in the first place.
regressed.
Well,
you're right.
it's
Crackman's right.
evolved.
Like, this is a farce. We're begging the indulgence of the audience in this respect. And we all know, let's just get that out of the way. The sky is not a vacuum. There's nobody travelling to the moon. There's nobody travelling to Mars. The area above your head is not an infinitely expanding space for gas to fill because we'd all be dead. Notwithstanding the fact that the sky is not a vacuum, we're just assessing the claims that they make in terms of the technology for when they travel off to Narnia. Now, in terms of their current narrative, they were able, in terms of rocketry, because it was rocket boosters that claimed to take the men from the gas pressure we're breathing into the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum, and then land in an area that they'd never ever visited, completely uninhabitable. And they managed to land there. How many times did they land there? In the 60s and 70s? Perfectly, every time, without issue. Now, there was a bit of a folly on the way, but ultimately speaking, everything was all good and they all managed to land. That was the standards of rocketry in the 60s and 70s. Now, how well's Elon Musk getting on at landing on Earth when he goes a bit up in the air? Does he always have a 100% success rate? Does he hell? So the standards, if you want to believe the CGI nonsense that they portray on TV for the masses, has got worse in terms of rocketry.
Well, they're dancing a fine line, aren't they? Because if they did do another moon mission, right? People are more used to the CGI. They've seen Hollywood dazzle them. So they would be looking for the tricks. So for them to go back to the moon would actually damage their claim because people would look at it and be like, that looks like crap. You know, like, I don't think that's not real. I
or
think
it
would
just
be more
wouldn't
damaging.
look anything like
what happened
what it did back then.
Sorry, Craig, go ahead, man.
No, I think we said the same thing. So go ahead.
Nah, I was gonna bring up my man from Project Orion, right? Like the guy that came out, I think it was like 2014. It came out. It was just like, you know, we got to solve these problems before we send people to this region of space. And that was always weird to me because, hello, did we send people to this region of space before? 6 times successfully? To the moon,
Okay,
they bought a
so-
car
Yeah, I
with them
remember
and
him
all that.
saying that it was one of the last things they needed to find out, right?
Yeah. He was just like, we need to solve these problems before we send people to this region of space. The region being the Van Allen belts. Hello, the astronauts did have to go through that to get to the moon, guys. So I don't know, did they just throw him out to dry? Like, did they not include him in the briefing? I don't understand what happened there. Were we supposed to forget that there was a moon landing? That one is weird, and I haven't seen that.
A moon landing.
He's still alive.
A moon landing. So just to reiterate Nathan's point, 11 successful landings by the United States, 8 via the Russians, 3 via the Chinese. So his point is exactly as stands. If we go along via their narrative, right, is that rockets, and we know this with intercontinental ballistic missiles, are extremely effective now, more so than in the past. They are definitely an improved technology, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Elon Musk cannot land.
Hold on. So, ICBMs, what do you know of these things?
A little bit.
Okay. How'd you know it?
I only. Oh. In what sense?
In the sense that you believe there are intercontinental ballistic missiles, correct?
I believe there are missiles at a long range.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, the Russians did release some information a little while back when their hypersonic missiles were announced to the world to have been
hypersonic
produced.
Russians, hypersonic.
Yes.
Ooh, wow, this sounds juicy.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
All I see ICBMs
before we go
are
on, just before we go on, what terror level should I be at precisely for this information to be delivered to me? Should I be at orange?
Oh, as high as possible.
Really? Red? Okay. I'm at red terror level for this information.
Before we go into the fear-mongering stuff, I would like to point out, if I could give a valid explanation for why they haven't gone back, would it make the first trip valid?
No. I mean,
no.
But you can try. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that I think the reason they say the things that they do is to keep the idea of space travel in people's minds, but not going back as to bring it too much attention. You know, it's like a delicate balance of people thinking it's real without ever really looking at it.
Perfect segue. So the reason this has come up, or the reason I had the idea to run that little game, is because of somebody we've been shouting out more and more recently, and old hand in this particular arena, which is Jeranism. Now, Jeranism, when I originally came to this subject, was a dab hand at finding out this farcical footage. He's even made freedom of information requests in the past for footage from these frauds. And he's got it all, he presumably got it all stashed away on his hard drive, and he manages to compile it. It makes it seem easy. I'm sure it's a hell of a lot of work, but I don't want to get into that without giving him too many YouTube props in terms of the work he does. What you get presented with when you go and see things like the Comedy Hour is the cat's already out of the bag. I agree with you, John. It would be best not to highlight it too much, but then you've got someone like Jeren, who will sit and literally go through the 1950s, 60s, 70s footage laughing at it. Because, unfortunately, technology and time has caught up with this dusty old crap, so now when you do highlight it and look at it, you can really see how bad it is. And you've got to mentally stretch yourself to a very fine point to go, yeah, I still think it's real, when someone like Jeren is exposing that. Now, it's a return to form for Jeren, because he, as far as I'm concerned, moved away from this subject to a certain extent. I know he always covered it, but it wasn't covered in the way he's doing it presently. And it's a proper return to form in that respect. And maybe it's easy, because he's got all this information to hand, and I hope he continues doing it, because I'm finding myself watching Jeranism more and more and more and more and more. I don't know about you guys, but that's certainly what I'm doing at the moment. Because he's covering things that I have no interest in looking into for myself. In other words, the sky vacuum argument's over in a heartbeat. Therefore, I lost all interest with it pretty soon after coming to the subject. So therefore, it does take someone else like Jeren to dig into it, to highlight it. Same goes for people like Dilly Gill, who I've got a lot of respect and time for. But Jeren's doing it, and he's just a natural at it. But I haven't got the time or effort or inclination to do stuff like that, and he has. And it's extremely valuable resource, especially if you're unaware of this. I mean, to be fair, I've seen probably 100% of what he's got to show already. Doesn't mean I don't really like him sitting in front of it, laughing his head off and going, yeah, but now look at this from the perspective of somebody that's a globe believer buying into this nonsense. Let's see how many times he uses the word incredible or phenomenal or nominal or whatever he's doing for that particular comedy hour. It's just a different way of looking at stuff that has now become so detached from my reality, as it's become genuinely hysterically funny to watch.
Mm-hmm. Can I throw out a little disclaimer?
To the point where the people that believe in it don't want to watch it. Whenever I ask somebody who believes in this crap, who wants to argue with me about this nonsense all the time, and I ask him, have you ever watched it? Have you ever seen it? No. Maybe a few seconds here or there, but they don't watch it. They don't care. And it's like, but you believe this shit. I just had this conversation the other day with a coworker. Like, you believe this nonsense, but you refuse to watch it. Why? Because when they do, it becomes problematic. Like, I had a dude that watched, I got him to watch the SpaceX nonsense when they were launching their crap into the ISS and all that. And he came to me and said, holy shit, I'm seeing things I probably shouldn't be seeing. This looks really bad. I said, see, all you had to do was look, but you refused to. How long did you argue with me before you decided to actually look at it? Because he was mad hype. Oh, they're going to the ISS, bro. he was all hitting me up, bro, you about to get lit with this ISS crap. He's the one who came back to me. It was just like, yeah, I don't. How a rocket's just appearing. Like, what is going on? And I said, all you have to do is watch it.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the super chat and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering Stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!